It's about 50 degrees or so inside my little shelter here from a single Exotac 4-hour candle there. Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason Salyer, and let's discuss setting up camp in a non-permissive environment. I'm right here next to the road, and I'm doing that on purpose. And I'll show you what strategies I would take if I was in a situation where I had to get from point A to point B, and the world had gone to crap. People were unfriendly, and I wanted to avoid contact with those individuals as much as possible. So we could discuss all day long about, having night vision and the advantages to that. Now, there's no question if you have night vision, you are going to be, you're going to have an advantage. But it's very expensive for the good ones. And let's be honest, it's not practical for a lot of people to have that. And do I suggest you spend the thousands of dollars on a good pair of nods if you don't have a year's supply of food for your family? Absolutely not. You need to get your priorities in check. We can discuss moving at night. We can discuss moving during the day, and we can decide which one is, depending on the situation, it's always going to be situationally dependent. Which one's going to be more advantageous? Which one's going to be less risky? But here's an issue with moving at night without some sort of night vision, even with night vision, is that you can run into things like this. Barbed wire from an old fence, and that could really mess you up. Full moon, you could probably see where you're going if it's clear skies, but if it's not, you're going to have some issues with that. A white light is obviously going to be seen from a long ways away. A red light can still be seen from a long ways away. So moving to the daytime might be your best option, but if you do that, you've got to be really cautious if you're trying to avoid being detected. Now, I'm not saying that you're some secret ninja spy behind enemy lines and all of that. You just want to get from point A to point B, and you don't want to run into any trouble. There's a lot of things that we can do, especially if you live in an area like this where we have varying terrain, lots of hills. There is no flat ground anywhere. Lots of big depressions, lots of trees, and even during the wintertime, just maybe possibly 100 feet off of the road, all you have to do is just stand still, and nobody will know that you are here unless they're out looking for you. If I wanted to set up my camp at night or during the day, what I would do is I would utilize the terrain around me, and I would find myself a bit of, I guess what you would call micro terrain, a small depression, not some place where I'm going to get washed out if it rains, and not some place where I'm going to freeze to death, because you still have to consider all the basic camping rules, right? Where am I going to pick my campsite? I might need some water, so I don't want to be too far from that. I don't want to be camped out underneath something like this Widowmaker here. I don't want to turn my wife into a widow, so I would probably avoid that. I'm not going to have a fire in this situation, so I don't need to worry about finding fuel for my fire. I just want to make sure I'm not, on a major game trail. There's no big ant pile or something underneath me. Another reason why setting up camp in the daylight is a good idea. The beauty of the wintertime is that you can see all of the houses. And by the way, even in urban environments like this last weekend, I was in St. Augustine, Florida. Really crowded, really busy. And even in that really crowded, super congested area, there are tiny little pockets where people just don't really go. People don't walk through those areas as much. And small little pockets of vegetation where you could easily tuck in for an evening and just stay undetected. Take 10 steps, stop, and listen. Take 10 steps and just repeat that process over and over and over again. And the closer you are to a house, or the closer you are to people, or whatever, the less steps you need to take in between those rests. So it might be 5 steps and a rest. It might be 2 steps and a rest. So what I'm looking for in my shelter for the evening would be something that blends into the environment, fairly camouflaged. It's low to the ground. It's not something high. I'm not stringing up a tarp 6-8 feet off of the ground. I'm not doing that. It's going to be kind of an irregular, odd shape where even if you saw it, even if you looked at it, you wouldn't really take it for straight lines, like a man-made kind of structure, not like a tent. I want it to be in a really nice secluded spot like this that's away from the ground or away from the road. So people aren't going to walk here. This isn't a trail. I'm not on a path of least resistance right here. This is a viney, sticks everywhere, branches everywhere. There's thorns all over the place. People aren't going to walk through here. This is just not a place. This is not the path of least resistance. You can kind of see a depression right here. It's not like there's a river flowing through here if it rains. It's not that kind of depression. It's not a gully. But if I lay myself down here and I keep myself really low to the ground and a very simple shelter, there's no possible way anybody's going to see me. If you had to do this with another person, another individual, or several other individuals, probably the best idea, instead of having one big large shelter for everybody to squeeze into, that might be what you have to do, but the best thing if you're really trying to keep a low profile is to spread out just a little bit, so you have several small, irregular, low to the ground camouflage shelters. Now, as far as a camouflaged, low to the ground, irregular shaped shelter, it doesn't really get any better than just a regular old Gore-Tex bivy bag. I'll put my bag in here as if this was me sleeping in it. Just give it a little bit of that. 10, 15 feet away, that's my shelter. That's what I would look like, basically, curled up inside of that. All right, there's the road. My camp is right down there. I don't even know where it is. It's down there somewhere, not very far down. Can you see where I'm sleeping? Right there. Let's say the weather was getting really nasty and I anticipated some real downpour. Bivy bag would probably keep me mostly dry, but it's just nice to not have to be, completely covered up in that bivy bag, especially when there's cold temperatures, because then you're dealing with condensation and stuff like that. So let's rig up a little bit of cover, but still not breaking any of those principles that we talked about earlier. Need to find some really fancy stakes for my tent. Found them. I don't want this to look good. I don't want it to look tight and like a tent. I want it to look all loose and floppy looking and like just haphazardly thrown together. I always use slip knots, something that I can just pull and untie really, really fast. One, it just makes life easier, makes breaking down camp really, really fast. But if I needed to get out of here in a hurry, it wouldn't be a problem. I wouldn't be cutting cordage or, scrambling to get something done. There we go. So I've got a little bit of straight lines going on there. I need to work on that, maybe loosen those up a little bit, get it a little floppier. But again, I could take leafy debris, some twigs and stuff, toss that stuff, things like this, lean that up against it just to break up that outline a little bit, and that will help blend in my shelter just a little bit more. If you pick your location really, really well, then you can get away with breaking some of those rules, so like having straight lines and such like that. You'll walk right by that and never see it. All right, so I'm in my shelter, all tucked in. I could get inside my sleeping bag, inside my bivy bag. The poncho's gonna keep 99% of the rain off of me, and the bivy bag will keep the rest off. It's actually warmer in here as well, so if it was a cooler night, getting inside this really small little poncho shelter helps trap in your body heat. Bad thing about it is if you don't prop up one side like this, or at least have a little bit of a a space in here. You can't see out of it either. So I've taken a stick here, just any old stick that I found on the ground, hooked the corner of my poncho on the stick. It's not stuck in the ground or anything. It's just right there. And if you lean it just right, it stays there. It doesn't fall down, and will give you a little bit of space to work. All right, so this is a tiny little titanium stove, alcohol stove from the company called Toke's. Barnacle Bill was very generous and sent this in for me to try out, and I'm really, really grateful for that, Bill. And I'll let you know what I think here in just a second. This is my first time using it. I've got some alcohol in this aluminum bottle here. This is a Vargo stove. The Vargo titanium hexagonal something or other wood stove. Works really, really good in an application like this. It doesn't weigh hardly anything. And I can set my little alcohol stove right inside of it. This is a lighter from Exotac, and it's been my go-to for a while now. I'm really liking it. It's a refillable lighter. You can replace all the pieces, the parts and stuff, and it can last you a really, really long time. There's a road behind me. There's a log here in front of me. There's no possible way anyone's going to see this tiny alcohol flame burning here. And some alcohols burn even clearer, than they don't make such a yellow flame like that. Just the one I have is burning bright yellow like that. So I could cook myself up a nice brew, heat some water up, boil some water, purify some water, pour it into a Mountain House meal, freeze-dried meal, and then be on my way again or bed down to sleep. So maybe in a situation like this, you're gonna feel the urge to go as fast as you can, get home as quickly as possible or whatever. And you won't take the time to stop and rest. But if you do that and you neglect yourself of the rest, you're gonna end up making mistakes. You're gonna end up doing something too fast, something too stupid, and you're gonna get hurt, in trouble, whatever. Stop, slow down, make good decisions, get some rest, feed yourself, fuel the machine, and you'll be much better off. So I'm not some super secret ninja squirrel out here pretending to be behind enemy lines. I am a believer in that the world will one day be a not so friendly place. And if we don't ready ourselves, we don't prepare ourselves, we don't learn the skills, we don't practice using the gear, we won't know what actually works and won't be able to separate the nonsense from the real life application stuff. We're about 20 yards maybe from our shelter. I still have it propped up. I haven't tucked it back down, so it's as obvious as it's gonna get. If you can see it, it is right there above my finger. So 20 yards away, very discreet. You'd walk right by that and not know it's there. If you need to use a white light, what you'll do is hopefully you can see this just a little bit.
Yep.
You see that? Yeah, so you can see this just a little bit. What I've done is I've turned my flashlight on, but I've covered it up with my hand, which makes it this glowing red thing, which is kind of cool. But if I should need to see something on the ground, I can give myself just enough light by opening up my fingers a little bit, and just enough, just so I can see what I'm doing and I don't trip over something. I can open it all the way up, obviously, and give myself plenty of light, but then it's going to be much more obvious to anyone around you. Even in the woods here, since it is wintertime, in the summertime this would definitely not be a thing, but since it is wintertime and there's no leaves on the trees, just the moonlight, I can move through the woods pretty easily. I'd have to take my time, obviously, so I don't trip over some barbed wire or something, but I could definitely move through the woods just by the moonlight tonight. So it's all situational. You know, you decide based on the situation, is it smarter to move at night? Is it smarter to move during the day? In this situation, probably at night would be the best way to do it. My wife came out here, even with the flashlight on, and we're standing right next to my shelter, but she said, I thought you built a shelter, as if, you know, there isn't one out here. So that tells you something. So in the low light, there's a shelter here, but she didn't even know it was right here. So I wear my wedding ring around my neck on a little piece of paracord. I don't know if you can see that. But at nighttime, what I typically do, instead of wearing a headlamp, I'll wear a headlamp sometimes when it's convenient, but for the most part, at night, if I need a light, I'll just clip this little O-light, this little brass O-light around my neck. And then I can turn that on and it'll dangle and give me enough light to kind of see what I need to do. So let's say I was out here in my little makeshift situation here, and I have my sleeping bag and my bivy bag, and I'm dressed sort of semi-appropriately, but the weather just changes for the worse and it gets really, really cold, gets significantly colder than I was ready for. I'm going to see how big a difference these little candles can make. This is a 4-hour nano candle from Exotac. It's 100% beeswax, and they're just small little candles. I'm going to see if I can raise the temperature inside my little poncho shelter here. If I tuck the sides down, obviously you don't want to completely seal it up because you'll die. so the outside temperature is about 35 degrees. And this, having it in the stove, is also going to keep me from melting my poncho, setting myself on fire in the middle of the night as well. All right, so the temperature in here has risen about 10 degrees. I'll show you in just a second on the thermometer. And that's just with a single Exotac candle. I don't have the sides of the poncho tucked down really, really tight. I've still got quite a bit of ventilation in here. And the more I tucked it in, the better it would work, obviously. And if I wanted to burn a couple candles at the same time, I could probably do that. But I figured one at a time would probably suffice for demonstration purposes. So it does work. It's significantly warmer in here from the outside. It's got a little bit of a glow from the one direction, but very minimal. It's about 50 degrees or so inside my little shelter here from a single Exotac 4-hour candle there. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and we'll see you on the next one. There'll be a link in the description for any of the Exotac products. If you click that link and you can use my discount code ON3, you'll be able to save a little bit of money and you'll be helping the channel out as well. So I'll be really, really grateful for that.